Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Day After Podcasts.
What is up, guys? So I did an org, aka, or what that spells out is online reality game, and it was Survivor Vanquish Fans versus Favorites 3. If any of you haven't seen it yet, pause this video, watch the dang live feeds. It's over, so all you have to do is go down, say that you promise not to spoil any live stuff, and then you know you're able to watch Fans vs. Favorite 3. That's all you have to do. But yeah, so I was contestant on it, and it was quite the experience. So we're gonna do a little Q&A here. I don't know any of the questions Joe's are going to ask me. I have some suspicions on a few things. We talked about potential stuff, but yeah,
Mhm.
um, it's still like a week since it ended as the time of recording, and it's still like something that I do think about a lot. And yeah, I won't get into too much. I'm gonna save it for the Q&A. Take it away, Joe.
Okay, yeah, I got a bunch of questions here. If I start to kind of move on to maybe a different area like that, but you feel like you had something you wanted to say from
Yeah.
what we were just talking about, definitely step in and let me know because there's a lot to unpack and it's I only get to see you only get to see so much from the feeds the video because
Yes.
we see immunity challenges and tribal council and we kind of miss a lot of the gameplay, so definitely feel free to tell us as much whenever I'm kind of talking about certain tribal councils, like really let me know about all that.
True, yeah.
Uh,
I will say that, yeah, because it was for charity, the one time they didn't do for charity, you were able to see in one of the breakout rooms was live feed. Um, I don't know if they quite do that with the what are they called? With the because what I did was a mini. What Survivor Vanquish usually does, it's like 2 or 3 weeks, and yeah, they play out Survivor within those 2 or 3 weeks.
mhm.
So mine was more of a accelerated game.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, with that already topic kind of being brought up here, let's talk about it. How do you feel about the fast-paced gameplay of a Survivor mini? Because it definitely was like kind of go go go, a lot of double eliminations. Do you think it helped your game, or would you say it hindered your game?
Hinder. Well, I mean, like, because like it's tough because you leave so much to chance there. Um, because you don't have time to like really get to know people. And you're kind of making split second decisions. And sometimes you're like, all right, let's go with this idea because it's the idea that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, which it's like, hey, we all need to be on board with voting out Alex. All right, let me go out to the other breakout room. One other thing about it, um, night 1 and night 3, the breakout rooms have limits, so there can only be so many people within a single one or the mod will say something.
Mhm.
So like it's hard to like talk to everyone. There were some people, especially in the merge, where I was not able to talk to, and like, all right, we're going in. I don't know where their headspace is at. All I know is hopefully the right numbers that I have. um, yeah. I'd say it's tricky because people have to make like decisions right then and there, and you don't have time to like talk things out. Or there's like, oh, you're going to tribal council, and so like you just heard a name from someone, and it's like, all right, do you believe what they're saying? And we're going straight there. Um, I'd say another thing is it gave a lot of winners advantage for that bonding because unless you already know who you're voting out, you're spending a lot of your tribal council or you're spending a lot of that strategizing during that time. Where the winning team, they get to chill and they can like talk around and whatnot. I only won one team challenge, so like it was kind of that was the only like break I had of that night where I was like,
Mhm.
oh okay, I started to eat my dinner, like salad. I got one of those salad, and get to talk to people a little bit. Um, try and make some alliances. I wasn't trying to be too hard on it for reasons we're probably going to talk about, but
Uh-huh.
it does hinder the game because it's like you really are, if things go super fast and you have to like get with the program, and any reason may be a good reason to take someone out.
Nice, nice. Okay, well, wanted to talk about that since we were kind of already talking about that topic. But let's go into chronologically how the game was going off. So the first challenge that you participated in, I really have just one question for you.
I know what it is.
Where are your pickles? Why did you not have pickles with you, Ryan? That is
I
a
don't,
tragedy.
I, the sad part is I used to have a roommate that did love pickles. And so we did have pickles in the fridge, but he just had to move.
Wow.
Um,
Should have played Survivor Vanquish then, it looks like.
the thing is I did apply a year ago, and then I didn't realize that Kristen messaged me and sent me a friend request. And I was like, ah, man, I already missed the interview process and whatnot. But, just with how my life is, it's just always easier. Like the mini is the only one I could realistically do because I either have
Mhm.
work, because it's based in the East Coast. So, like, they start things at 8 p.m. because most people will be off of work by then. Which, so like being on the West Coast, having like his day job end around 6, not to mention coming back home,
Mhm.
and then also the little acting gigs I do here and there, it's hard to commit to like 2 3 weeks, especially if it's not like actual Survivor. You're not, winning big bucks.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people dropped out because it just seemed like a lot of people didn't have pickles, which
I
was
legit had everything else. I went to
yeah,
the
I
store,
bet.
got ice cream. I looked at the other Survivor Vanquish, like, all right, what are some things? I bought lighters. I made sure I had a rock, a leaf. Made sure I had like miscellaneous things. Be like, okay, make sure I have rice. All of these
Yeah.
things, and then something that wasn't in any of them, and something so random as pickles. And I'm like, I just feel like an idiot. I mean, not as big of an idiot as probably Alex and Trey because they went home because they did not have pickles in their fridge.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's a lesson to all your you Survivor Vanquish applicants. Make sure you have pickles if you're going to go play. You never know.
Or just make sure that whatever your Zoom setup is in a Walmart.
Yeah.
Just do it in a Walmart, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So going on now to the vote, I want to get your thoughts and opinions on why do you think people looked at you as a frat bro?
You know, because I think this may sound braggadocious. Fine. Maybe because I was good looking, I was confident, or like with my jokes and whatnot. And I wasn't like, yeah, I was playing I'm wearing a Pokemon shirt, but it wasn't blatantly obvious. It was a sports jersey.
Mhm.
I'm wearing athletic gear. They may think, okay, this suit's a frat boy. Um, and with self-reflection, sometimes I'm like, I think last week I was like, wait, what am I actually? Because I do like going to parties and whatnot. I'm like, and I'm very hyped. And then I was like, ah, shit. They were low key, right? It's just I've grown up a nerd my entire effing life. I'm
Mhm.
still a big nerd. I was legit at 2 different Pokemon tournaments this weekend, dressed up as Neo. We'll get to Neo in a bit. And then after one, I went straight to play D&D. I am a big nerd. I was never confident as a child. So the idea of me being a frat boy in anyone's eyes, especially because on Darman, never get that role,
Yeah.
was like completely beyond me. Because here's the thing, Mama Felicia came in to, because there was a point where after I say like 5 minutes, she came into camp and she was willing to work with us. She was like, all right, I'm just gonna say they're gonna go after a frat guy. And then I was like, okay, I'm safe. Uh that was my initial reaction.
Yeah.
Um, and it was something where we kind of also had a similar idea. We went after Alex first. I pitched out Alex names first because I was like, hey, he was on fans favorites too. This dude's going to be a huge threat. He did win 2 individual immunity things. He has the Riz. The dude has to go. And
Mhm.
then I was able to convince. There was 2 breakout rooms. There was one, and I think there was like 6 of us. It was mostly guys. And then I went over to what I'll dub the girl one, and it was like they were talking about Trey, and I'm like, hey, actually go for Alex because we got everyone over there. He's done this before, and they were like, all right, sure, we'll keep Trey as a backup. And then I went back and I told them that, and then yeah, around that time, Mama Felicia told us, oh yeah, they're going after a frat boy, and I'm like, well, it's not me. So
Yeah, I know you, Ryan, and I definitely feel you're way more in the nerd culture camp than a frat boy camp. I mean,
yeah.
you're outgoing, but I wouldn't really consider just being outgoing making someone a frat boy.
Well, the thing is, it's like it's more so like, and Porsche kind of called it out. It's like, because a lot of these challenges, at least half of them use a red solo cup, and there's a lot of drinking games out there.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, she was like, yeah, if it's, something for immunity or individual immunity, if you're good at flip cup, you are a threat. Or,
Yeah.
oh, if you are good at beer pong, you could be a big threat. Case in
Uh-huh.
point, why we went after Alex. So, like, I don't blame their thinking. I was just a little surprised that they thought it was me.
Yeah. Yeah, you were on that list of frat boys.
Yeah.
Little did you know.
Yep.
Um Okay, well, since we're on this as well, did you have to? How do you think you had to change your game once you were suddenly one of the first people getting targeted? And if so, explain how.
All right. So one of the things was I had to not be as strategic. I had to also play up the meek stuff, or I felt I had to in the moment because like I need to kind of. It's one thing to be like, oh, I'm a nerd, but then I had to show with my actions that I was a nerd. Like, when I believe it was Heather who asked what my favorite pop was. Now, while I do love Elsa, my favorite pop is out in the living room. But I wanted to seem not like a frat boy, and so I grabbed Elsa and I talked about that. And then, little things here and there. Um, I mean, I always planned on being jokey and whatnot and a
Mhm.
personality on the thing because, yeah, I'm an attention hog. But
Yeah.
also like because you guys don't get to see any of the strategizing, I didn't want to be a wallflower. So I was a bit more like when we were on camera on the live stream, I wanted to like stand out more. So like I would start saying some like dumb, goofy things a bit more to be like, all right, this guy, he's not as intelligent. He's just like this weird nerd. I don't want to say weird nerdy guy. He's this
Mhm.
nerdy guy who isn't really good at these challenges. And thing is, I tried in every fucking challenge. I practiced some of these things. The only one I'll if we get to it, I'm pretty sure we'll get to it. I'll tell you which one I actually practiced.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so basically, and then I felt nervous wanting to make alliances with people. The only person I made like a formal alliance with was Dylan, because we were both targeted. I kind of
Uh-huh.
told Cameron, hey, I know you're a veteran. I'm not going to put your name out there or like really vote for you because my parents are vets, and that was out of respect. Didn't know Joey was a vet. Otherwise, I would have told him the same thing. And that's not me just like, oh, trying to play that card against him. That's like a genuine thing that I wanted to do.
Mhm.
But yeah, so it made it harder to strategize because I didn't want to enforce what their beliefs were.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you had to play a lot more defensive instead of, offensive, 'cause it does
Yeah,
seem like, I mean, you called the first vote pretty much, by taking out Alex if you're the first one to bring it out, so, um, yeah, you basically were just on, just trying to get through each vote. It became a
yeah,
dangerous game for you.
it was.
Um
It definitely was.
Yeah. How about we move on to the thought process that was in place for getting rid of Trey? Because I really wanted to see Trey in the game more.
Same.
So it was upsetting to see him go as the second boot. So what was kind of like the feel of the breakout rooms, and how did that kind of come to be?
Well, the thing is, there was 2 breakout rooms. There was, I would say, there were 6 of us in a room, mostly male, and then there was the other room, which I believe have a lot of the ladies in, or at least I believe there was either 4. I think there was 4 people in there.
Mhm.
Heather was one of them, and I believe Candace as well. And the name they were talking about was Trey, and the name Trey came up because it's another thing where, oh, it's those games. It's like the being good at, like, the simple, like, little games and whatnot. And especially, I would say, if you were in a like Amazing Race or something that's very challenge heavy, where you have to rely mostly on your skills to complete the task or the games or the challenge in order to win, that puts a bigger target on your back. So the thing was, and Heather said this, it was like, we all discussed a second name, go for that. And when we're in a live tribal council, which we didn't really expect,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, we have to go after Trey. Um, because, like, we have to be unified. Otherwise, we would have lost Austin. And Austin was a bro.
Mhm.
Funny enough, he actually did go to a fraternity,
Yeah, I
but
would
he's
say
another nerd.
he looks like more frat broy than you, so
Yeah. There was even a mod I talked to after everything, and, like, he was like, "Yeah, I went to it, but one fraternity too, but it was like a nerdy fraternity." But no, Austin was a nerd as well, but he did actually go to a frat. But, like, that was the
uh
thing. That's like such a old school way of looking at things.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's
But
just
yeah,
the whole thing of, the quick game. It was someone said
yeah.
one thing that kind of put a few people on a different plane, and, that's sometimes all that you need pretty much
Do you
for,
do you want to know who it was that suggested the frat boys?
who was it?
Janet.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, one of your favorite players
In
put
my
you.
top 10,
Yeah.
nonetheless.
Yeah, one of
Um,
your favorite players potentially, jeopardizing your game by doing that.
Yeah, I give mad props to Mama Felicia because she voted for Dylan and what made it 10 to 9 to 1. So instead of it getting, like, striking fear into the fans or anything like that, or having to do a rock draw or any shenanigans. Because, like, when I heard my name, so we'll get to it in a bit, but I had the idol at that point. We'll get to when idol when everyone bring
Yeah.
up, but I had the idol going into first tribal council. And when I started hearing my name, I'm like, am I really going to be the first boot with an idol in my pocket? Or just
Yeah.
not in my pocket, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, your reaction was really great, by the way. I mean, I saw the fear and panic set in the second that you had 9 votes against you. Because reads a lot of the votes kind of like in groupings almost.
Yeah.
So he kind of was went through the 9 votes very quick on you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. It was crazy. I was like, "Oh, dang. This the you're this could have been a lot shorter of an interview had that
Yeah.
happen."
I don't think there would have been an interview.
No,
Would have been,
no.
uh,
You would have just hung your head in shame on the next brand stealing. That would have been it.
yeah, pretty much been it. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay. Well, let's go to the next immunity challenge that happened here. So this was one where you had to keep a balloon up while you stack a pyramid of solo cups, and you were the first one done for Sequoia. Definitely.
However,
Yeah.
I fucked up the challenge.
Oh, you did.
I was supposed to do it with one hand.
Uh-huh.
I did not quite hear that.
Interesting. It seemed like there were some times when you were setting up challenges that you were having trouble hearing what Kristen was saying.
Well, I think there's a few reasons. One, I'll admit it can be jarring hearing a bunch of people talk at the same time. Also,
Yeah.
sometimes when you get the initial things, you yourself are like, okay, how am I going to do this? What's the best way? And I, looking back, I'm like, there were a few times where I'm like, "Ah, man, if I, looked at other people's screens or like, something like that, I would have done better in that challenge. But like sometimes, especially because like we're doing it here,
Mhm.
like, this is the same pretty much setup that I used.
Yeah.
When you're doing it in your comfort of your home and you can't like physically look at a person next to you and be like, oh, that's what they're doing. It's easy to make that kind of mistake.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Yeah. I was curious just mostly because, you were the first one done. And I was gonna say, how did it feel that you still had to go to tribal even though, you crushed it. But now I feel like, yeah, I guess you deserve to go to tribal if you didn't do it right.
Here's the thing, I did try it the next day.
Uh-huh.
Um, because I did realize during it, I was like, oh man.
Mhm.
Um, or I think a little bit on reflection. I
Yeah.
tried it the next day, and thing is, Drew was taking forever with it.
Yeah.
Um, it's like some things are not in your wheelhouse. It's just the balloon kept going down too fast, and he wasn't able to keep it up in the air long enough for him to
Yeah.
even touch his cups.
Yeah. He was kind of playing with the balloon a lot and then doing a little motion every now and then.
I mean, so kind of like it's still applicable. Your question's still applicable. I mean,
Yeah.
it can be tough because like it happened to me twice, um, where it's like your fate is in hands that are not your own, and it's difficult because like you can't necessarily help them other than give support and some advice, and even that can be like a little washed away with noise,
Uh-huh.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess let's just get into the vote then, because this is a pretty big game changing tribal right here. Uh, I want to know, did the Janet public idol giveaway change the momentum of the game? Did it impact any of your future voting decisions? And was Cameron, who now suddenly gets a public idol, were you wanting to work with him? Was he now a threat to you?
Well, I kind of wanted to work with Cameron because of the whole veteran thing, and he was a favorite I knew.
Mhm.
Um, the public thing kind of took me by surprise, because basically how it was, we both Janet and I both raised the most money pre-game, and therefore we got an advantage, and that advantage was an idol, and it was good until final 12. Um, so, it's one of those things where because Janet was basically sacrificing herself because she didn't have ping pong balls. Basically, what happened in the breakout rooms was I think it was me and a few people, and then I went to the other places to kind of see people's headspace. I was a little worried, like, obviously my name was already said, so therefore, big target. And then I'm like, yeah, and looking back, I'm like, it could have actually have been me if Janet didn't sacrifice herself,
Uh-huh.
just because in that first initial room, no one was really throwing out a name. And sometimes I don't know if that was nerves or the thing is, if they don't throw out a name or they're asking you to throw out a name, you're their target. And so you're kind of,
Yeah.
but like like Janet said that she didn't have ping pong balls. She didn't want to, she came ill prepared. She didn't want to cost anyone immunity or whatnot. So she did the right what she felt was the right thing.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so when she had the idol and then gave it to Cameron, makes sense because favorite and whatnot, keeping it within there. Like I don't know how much they knew each other outside of the game. I would say what gave other than favorites being more experienced at, challenges and like tribal and voting people out or anything like that they also have the advantage of actually knowing some of these people
Uh,
IRL.
yeah. Yeah, there's the favorites do technically have an advantage because of that.
Majored.
Uh the reality, competition kind of click is pretty huge, they're always seeing each other at events. So whereas the fans are kind of a mishmash of people who are just kind of being brought on here who have no relation to each other.
Yeah.
So
And the
yeah.
thing is, other than I will say this too. So if you're on a season of Survivor Vanquish, you're not on the group anymore because they don't want any spoilers and whatnot. I
Mhm,
actually had to pivot my game because I wanted people to vote for me to be their winner pick. But at the same time, I was like trying to be like, well, I want to have merit to like why people should choose me. But at the same time, I didn't want to A, say I was an actor right off the bat, and
mhm,
B, come off as a big threat. So I kind of came off as this kind of like goofy guy, wanted to have fun, a YouTuber and whatnot. Just like a fun guy to be around.
mhm.
And then like someone that's more focused on the challenge and not more so like blindsiding whatever. So we didn't even have that, except I will mention one person because I guess they put it on the Instagram page of like who the fans were for a little bit and then deleted it. But one person knew who I was. We'll get to them in a bit.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that happens. My next question that I have here is heavily because of the future vote off here of Cliff. But do you think the continued vote offs of the favorites helped or hinder your game? Because it
It,
kind of seemed like uh you were the biggest threat as a fan, and the fact that all these favorites were going kind of felt like your shield was going away.
I never saw it that way. That's a good point. I saw it as, all right, here's the thing. We all wanted a fan to win.
Mhm,
And some of the favorites, like they kind of was like, this is kind of like their opportunity to do stuff as well. Like when Cliff got eliminated, he was a good sport about it. He was like, even in this thing, he was like, I'm excited because y'all might be on TV one day. Not
mhm.
the way you think with me, Cliff, but it was it's one of the things where I'm like, hey, if everyone's on this idea of getting rid of favorites, ride it. Because one, they wanted to vote me out at the beginning. And there are a few favorites I wanted to work with, but it's like if the momentum to take out all the favorites is what we're going for, I think that's badass. Because and I was trying to like hit that at my like final, my final tribal council before I got voted out that it's like this is something crazy. This doesn't really happen. In fact, fans versus favorite 2, the reverse happened, and so
Mhm,
many fans were being taken out. So it was kind of like nice being like, oh yeah, let's take out the favorites. There were some I wanted to work with and whatnot, but at the same time, it's just like, hey, the meta pitted us together right at the beginning, and when we fans had the advantage, we kind of had to roll with it. Nothing personal, but it's just like,
yeah,
it's fast paced and whatnot. You know, any reason to vote someone out in a mini is a good reason to vote someone out.
mhm. Interesting, interesting. Yeah, it seemed like, once Cliff went, it became, at least in my opinion, tough to work with a lot of those favorites. It became very much like the fan collective versus the favorites, and maybe like uh some of them might make it a little further, but it didn't seem like you can make any long-term plans with a lot of the favorites. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
because after Cliff went, at that point in time, before anyone else was added in, that was half of the favorites gone.
Yeah.
And so like obviously Portia, she was like, man, it's a lot better if you guys work with us and stuff like that. And it's like, I even said, and I was candid, granted, Portia and I, we had a little back and forth when it came to a lot of stuff. But this was the thing. It was like, we keep getting pitted against each other. That was legit from the beginning. Even Joey said it, and I'm going to include this in the world, like best of moments. But he was like, I'm starting to think that it's us versus them at the very first tribal. And Jan is like, you think? Isn't that what it's called? And I'm like, yeah, it's in the title. Uh,
Yeah.
and so it's like the meta was that. And there were still some that I was like willing to work with. Like out of the ones that were remaining, I really wanted to work with Cameron and Mama Felicia because Mama Felicia I knew wanted to work with the fans. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come over. So
Mhm,
like, all right, it would be better to keep her around.
mhm.
Um, yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, interesting. Let's move on now to the infamous challenge, Ryan, for you. This was the throw the cards to knock over a pyramid of cups. Uh, I just want to know, like, what was going through your head as you were the last one of your on your tribe, and it was pretty much now to just can you finish? You were in the Drew situation. Can you finish? Otherwise, your tribe goes to tribal.
Yes, the iconic moment. Well, I had a few iconic moments, but this
Yeah.
is at least challenge wise. So
Yeah.
remember when I said that I was practicing some of these challenges?
This was the one.
This this was one of the ones. And maybe because I was doing it too far back,
Yeah.
but I was just terrible at it. I could not get the cards to go consistently in any direction and find my rhythm from it. And so I was like, of course, this one shows up. And funny enough, out of all the ones that I practiced, the only ones that showed up, that was the only one showed up that I participated in. Like, yeah, I
Mhm.
did practice flip cup. I did practice, getting balls into the cups and whatnot. And I was doing more squats and whatnot because that was another popular challenge on there.
Uh-huh.
None of it wanted to come up when I was doing any of it. So I'm like, okay, so in that moment, I did fear that I was having like a Drew thing where I'm like, okay, I I was like, oh man, I don't want to have to go to tribal again
Yeah.
for the fourth time in a row. I wanted an effing break. Uh and not only that, like, I wanted to win something. And so like it was nice. It was actually one of my favorite moments because everyone was cheering me on. They were all like, "Let's go, Ryan." Mama Felicia, Porsche, even Kasi was, but Kasi didn't
Mhm.
realize that we were on opposing teams. But like it was a moment of like you heard the support from me and like I was asking trying to talk to them. I was like, all right, what is a better way for me to do this? And realizing that I was doing it from way too far was
Mhm.
another big factor because
Yeah.
that's how I practice. And so I think maybe that was part of it. And I was too afraid to like move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
There were definitely some people who were throwing the card and it was just like a couple inches away from where their throwing was. Like it was so some of them that were definitely not following the
yeah.
4 feet as well.
I think it's also tough because, similar to like how I made the mistake with the, not using one hand, sometimes it's like, and I feel like sometimes, because there's so much going on, and even with the organizers and mods, they can only look after so much.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah. So sometimes I'll be like, all right, yeah, that works. So I don't necessarily blame anyone that if they were close,
Uh-huh.
because one, it was still tough, and two, um, a lot goes on, especially with a mini, because everyone is kind of talking at once. I know I'm guilty of like trying to like be like, oh, what's this and this. It's just like so much information. You're in your own little bubble, and you kind of see everyone else's bubble.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it was a great moment when I finally did knock it out because I'm like, no, I'm not going to let my team down. I want to be able to beat this challenge. Because I was not throwing any challenge prior to that. I just wasn't good at it. I didn't have pickles in my fridge.
Uh-huh, yeah. Well, good job for at least not being like Drew in that situation and managing to get yourself a little break. You got your little salad to hold you
So
over. Um, Let's move on now to your next tribal council. Actually, I just want to say, obviously, congrats on getting the idol that you had, and I know it was the last time you could use it, but did you believe that you were the one going home at that vote? Did you think before the votes were read that you had the votes against you?
No.
No.
So, and Portia actually asked me this question
Mhm.
back when we were both in jury. So, like, were you actually scared at all during any of it? And night one, other than because obviously Janet sacrificed herself, so I knew where the votes were going. The fans we were like, yeah, we got to take out Cliff, and there was no argument there. It's like, hey, we all want to, this is a yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and for this one, I felt like we had the numbers because Dylan, who I already had an alliance with, was on my team. It's a numbers game where all the fans wanted to make the merge, and then I was kind of like aiming for Joey because I was like, all right, this dude's on the Amazing Race. He's an honorable guy. I believe he was a cop in the sense of like, all right, he's very straightforward, stuff like that, very honorable, as well as being pretty decent at the challenges too. So I thought he was probably a big threat. Also, he's someone where Heather did say like when Joey was like, "Why do you always choose me?" It was like, "Oh, you're kind of quiet." I'm like, quiet with strategy is what I meant. Like, he's someone where he doesn't look like he's making the big moves and whatnot. So I was like trying to get out Joey, especially because we were near that thing. Because like, don't fear the frat boys, the 20 somethings. Fear the guy who was probably a frat boy or has partied and also has wisdom.
Uh-huh.
So he was a big threat. Also, we couldn't get rid of Portia. Uh, we couldn't get rid of Portia there. Otherwise, I would have been like, no, we need, yeah. Um, but we'll get more into Portia because, like, obviously, she has a big portion in my brand.
Yeah.
uh, or not brands. I'm so used to saying that in my Survivor Vanquish experience.
Uh-huh.
But, I was like, hey, let's go for Joey. But it was Candace and Megan. And they were like, hey, actually, Felicia might be the better choice. And this is one of the things where me being a target already kind of hindered my gameplay because I wanted to bring Mama Felicia. But because I didn't want to seem like I was too pushy or anything and like really argue the point. I agreed. I even said more things to kind of like be like, yes, that is a good idea and stuff like that. And so I had to vote Mama Felicia out. I knew where their numbers were going. I told Dylan the plan. We told Mama Felicia to vote for Joey. It was sad. And so like I played my idol just in case
Mhm.
because the thing is, one, I'll admit, I didn't realize that it expired at 12. Well, no, it's not that I didn't realize, I forgot that it
Uh-huh.
expired at 12. And so I'm like, I really want to make night two. I want to make the merge. Why not play it? Because there was even times when had I even though Janet is a very honest person and whatnot, in the back of my head, there was like a 2% chance is it still actually me?
Uh-huh. Yeah, your
Um,
name was coming up a lot, so I mean, it's
yeah,
fair. I was watching thinking like, honestly, I was like going, "Ryan, I hope you have an idol because it seems like you're definitely a target." And so when you say, had the whole stop and did it, I was like, "Yes, yes!" Like I was literally fist pumping the air because I was so
yeah.
excited.
It was something where I had it and I was like, I really wanted to make the merch. That was like a thing where I just had to.
Mhm.
Or like, yeah, when I look back at it, and we even talked a little. I was like, oh, it expired at 12 anyway, so you know, it would have been wasted anyway. So there was no real loss of me playing at that point.
Yeah,
At that
definitely.
point.
Yeah. Well, you managed to do it. Managed to get through day one of the 3-day Survivor mini, so that was cool. The last thing that I need to know for that day is, did you decide to open Pandora's box?
No.
And okay. Uh, second part of the question was, did you think that it might be players entering the game? Do
Hell
you
no.
know?
No. Uh, I thought, yeah, it would be. I thought it could be something like, oh, you get a chance. I thought it was a super idol or something,
Uh,
or it definitely would. I definitely thought an advantage would be there, or something like that. I didn't know what was going to happen with Pandora's box. Obviously, someone was going to open it. Turned out to be Johnny, but I didn't know what was going to happen. I was like, I just don't want to touch it. And Dylan and I, we kind of shared the same sentiment. We didn't want to kind of like want a penalty
uh,
basically by touching it.
yeah. Yeah, fair enough. I was in the chat room. I wanted you to open it, to be honest. I thought that would be
I know
fun.
you did.
Yeah. I love chaos, so I was rooting for it to get open. So but yeah, so obviously, Izzy and I'm forgetting what his name
Michael
was.
G.
Michael, yeah. They entered the game, two new players who are now suddenly coming in here as we enter the earn the merge section. I just want to know, this seems like the time where your Ryan luck might catch up to you. Is
Oh,
something like
definitely.
this. So I just want to know, how were you sweating bullets, knowing that two new players are coming in and you're not at jury yet? So this is
Mhm.
the most dangerous
This was the
part.
this was the only time other than the first vote when I heard my name that I was actually scared
Uh,
because I just played an idol. My name has already been out there, and I'm actually not good at challenges. So I thought I was fucked.
yeah. Yeah, I was really concerned for you. I know we had a call actually right after night one, to talk about it, and I basically said like, yeah, you're kind of like the biggest threat going into day two. So definitely going to be tough. Try to lower that threat level as
Yeah,
much as you
and
can.
I tried doing that throughout that, and then obviously with this, try to lower my threat level more. But like when the earn the merge happened, I was also like, thing is, I completed the challenge, but like two people were like behind. We still had two people in my tribe that needed to complete it. It's just I kind of felt like this is where I'm gonna go because of the Ryan luck, because it's also ironic. Because if it's that one elimination spot of 13 that is like, huh. And if you know, you guys know. I'm not
uh,
gonna say it flat out, but like, where I'm like, it would be poetic if that happened.
uh,
But I was like, uh-oh, this is bad. This is very, very bad. This is like I was like, if I don't get on the right team, I'm going home.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you managed to get through, so that was definitely a good thing. Was there any other things that you were trying to do to potentially lower your threat level, like in the breakout rooms? Were you trying
Yes.
any certain way to? Yeah, yeah. Go ahead and describe some of the stuff.
While I was scared, yeah, I still I didn't want to be like Caleb. I had to make people think. Also, there's one more thing I need to even mention about
Mhm.
that. So we had one day in between, right before we started, I'd say 10 minutes before, I look at Instagram. Candace had already followed me, which
Uh,
means she knew my secret. And I'm like, this is very bad. And the thing is, I felt close with Candace. We didn't have a formal alliance, but we got on the same tribe a lot, so we kind of trauma bond. And she was on my ally list. And then when that happened, it just kind of like, oh no. Um, and then here's the thing with the breakout room. So the first one we had, it was just a big one. There was some technical issues. and people were talking, and then Portia asked, I'm sure, like, all right, I think I have to clear the air about some stuff. And Portia like, yeah, how'd you get that idol? And I was like, and I was honest. I was like, yeah, I got most of the money. My mom donated a bunch and whatnot, which was true.
Mhm.
But it was like one of the things where I was like, I kind of had to like A, be honest, and then B, play up the meek stuff. And also, I admitted to everyone there about the Ryan luck.
Uh-huh.
I joked about it too. I was like, there is a force stronger than any kind of common sense, any logic. It can bend the rules of reality, and that is Ryan luck. Um, and you know, Porsche was going at me hard, and then I'm just kind of like begging for these breakout rooms to happen, and then I didn't want to go pre-jury and whatnot, and then I tried to do a little guilt trip thing. I was like, I requested off of work for this, and then Portia like, you knew about this for a month. I'm like, no, I was like one of the last people to actually get a spot and whatnot. I did request off the weekend and whatnot, so there is a bit of truth, but I was using that as kind of like, I'm just trying to not go home here because like to go that close, it would have hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah. Luckily, Cassie ends up being the one to kind of go out there. So Ryan Luck didn't strike yet. It
No.
was still good for
It
you.
it kept me in that situation. Ryan
Yeah.
Luck got me into that situation.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. When the breakout rooms were finally open and whatnot, like I didn't want to vote for Izzy because I wanted to work with Izzy. And I did not end up ever on the same thing with Kasi. And she was the only favorite that was available.
Mhm.
So, you know, I believe like in the breakout room there was Izzy, Michael G, there was definitely Johnny.
Uh-huh.
And then a whole bunch of I think there was like 5 or 6 people there. And then I was like, all right, we kind of have to go with Kasi. And I'm acting very, very scared. And then Johnny is like, hey, if we need one more vote, because if we need 7 votes, I have a steal a vote. And so I can steal Portia. And I'm like, yes, yes, do that. One, because a little like jab at Portia. Two, I need all the help I can get.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
when that happened, we're gonna spread the good word to get out Kasi. I went to Dylan. I was like begging him, was like, please, you have to vote out Kasi. If not, like I am going home. I will be
Yeah.
eliminated.
Yeah. Well, luckily, yeah, that doesn't happen. My next question was actually, I wanted to know, were you happy about the whole Johnny versus Portia kind of thing? Because it seemed like that kind of became the rivalry starting at this tribal council into the next one was this whole thing about uh Johnny calling out Portia, and it seemed like there was a little bit of animosity between the two? Were you happy that okay, maybe there's something else that can be the front while I maybe try to sit back, or were you just like, I don't care, I'm still the next one, doesn't matter?
So, one thing that happened in one of the breakout rooms, Portia came in a group, and it was me and Johnny. Johnny started to become my like number one after that first thing because we were on the team, and then like I needed more alliances, and like he was another frat boy. Yeah, he
Uh-huh.
may have been, but like I was like, all right, and I felt that like little camaraderie. I was like, yeah, we can probably be a good duo. And it's just him and I. And then Portia comes in and is like, Ryan, how come you were right on all your votes at tribal council? Portia comes in bringing that energy, and I'm like, I just went with the numbers. Simple as that.
Uh-huh.
And she's like, huh, I don't quite do that. I think actually this might have been 12, but like, uh, and then like the thing is like Portia would should have went home. She should have at 12.
Uh-huh.
Thing is, and this is another reason why I was so trying to get Joey out. was because when I played my idol, Joey didn't play an idol. So I knew he didn't have one because when your target plays an idol, you play an idol.
Uh,
And so when that happened, uh, I'm so like, I'm sorry, what was the question again? Oh yeah, Portia should have went.
yeah.
But the thing is, it's funny looking back at the live feed because she was lingering in there. It's like, I need an advantage. Or they're gonna vote me off. And then Kristen's like, go make nice with Johnny. Um, but no, Johnny and I, we didn't like Portia because one, she kept targeting me.
Mhm.
Two, she's I always wanted to meet a real life Regina George until I met Portia.
Yeah.
Because like she was picking on me a lot. And so like I know that there were other breakout rooms and there was something with Johnny and her where he wasn't allowed to like talk or whatever, and she kind of did a similar move with me and Megan when we were on the same thing, when we were on the same tribe. Um but where she would join a room to exceed the limit and then not budge so people couldn't strategize, kind of like a buddy system.
uh,
Uh, and so, you know, we both were not big fans of Porsche at this point. Um, and at 12, there was a moment even where, uh, it was Johnny, myself, and her in a room. And this is what I'm talking about. And then I was like, and she was like, you should really be friends with us because we know the producers and stuff to get you on these shows and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, you're kind of low key using emotional manipulation here. And then I kind of was like talking to Johnny. I'm like, do we really want to listen to this right now? I kind of broke the meek thing a little bit. I was like,
uh,
getting a little cocky. I'm like, is anyone actually going to listen to, she's not a really nice person. It's like, we kind of like disregard. And she's like, I think she may have made a thing like, oh, you and Johnny are like, oh, what are you, like king and queen or something? I'm like, I forget. I was just trying to get out of that room because I didn't want to deal with Portia
uh, okay.
at that point
And
in time. But, basically because she lost her vote, she was able to rally people. I still don't know why they listened to her.
mm,
I still don't know why. Because like maybe she was able to swing, oh, Johnny's a wild card, stuff like that. Um, because I'm trying to get people to vote out Joey. And
mm,
then I'm in a room with Heather and just her and I, she's like, hey, I do really want to work with you. We have to skip the pleasantries right now. But how close are you with Johnny? I'm like, he and I are pretty close. Like, Johnny is the vote. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, are you sure the numbers are going that way? And then she was like, yeah. And I'm like, all right. And in tribal, made a little thing about there are 16 votes against me. One more, it would be 17. I gave her a code word to let her know that you'd be like, hey, if Joey is actually, or if Johnny is actually the vote, say 17. But Portia came in and said, oh, yeah, we're voting Johnny, right? And it did seem like that's where the numbers were going. And so that was kind of like the, that was me just like pretty much confirming to Heather that I was on board with the
mm,
plan.
yeah. Well, interesting. You got a little bit of a rivalry with Porsche. I do think all that's pretty interesting.
I did
Uh,
too.
yeah. Well, the next tribal council, unfortunately, is where you go home. But I have to say, what a tribal council to go home
Yep.
at. Even though you get voted off, I'm glad to see that you didn't go down without a fight. You had your big epic monologue with your Captain America shield. You put on the whole uniform and everything. You definitely went out in a grandiose style. Definitely the biggest uh votes in tribal council, in my opinion, of the entire season.
Well, I mean, yeah, because part of the reason they voted me off, I've heard a bunch of different things. One of the things was they, even the contestants were like, "This is kind of the Ryan show, isn't it? Do we want this to be the Ryan show?"
Mhm.
Uh, Also, they knew that I was kind of friend. Also, Candace was, according to Heather, because I did talk to Heather like the next day and whatnot. She was like, "Yeah, Candace legit told everyone right off the bat, or told whoever was immediately there right off the bat." So my threat equity was just, I was just hosed at that point.
Uh-huh.
Um, and here's kind of the fuck thing. So what happens is there's a passive aggressive way. Yes, I'm wearing a Christmas shirt. Uh, there is a passive aggressive way where you don't necessarily blind someone. You just ask them, "Oh, who are you voting for? Or what names have you heard?" They're not going to tell you the vote because they don't want to be like, "Oh, it's you." And that was happening to me, and we kind of did something similar to Cliff. So it was a little bit of taste of bone medicine in that one. And I'm like, when they're already talking about this, that the votes decided, I knew I was like screwed. I was going home. There was nothing really I could do. I was scraping around trying to find an advantage anywhere because I talked to Kristen earlier because she gave me a little Zoom tutorial about the breakout rooms. And I was asking about advantages. So like, oh yeah, you might see a little something off or something like that. So I was like going in these rooms, like trying to like, and like I was also like in shock a little bit. I'm like, you're legit listening to Portia?
Uh-huh.
She's, it's like, are you guys seriously doing this? Like, I think I talked to Megan 101, and then she was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll vote Joey. And I'm like, you could be, at least be a bit more assuring. Like, fuck. Like, I knew I was screwed. Like I was like, how, what? No. Um, and that whole like monologue thing, it's like, no, I don't. I'm someone where I do not like quitting at all, even if I know it's an uphill battle. And I'm like, no, like I couldn't just like sit by. And there was a moment I was alone in one of the breakout rooms, and I'm just like, it's gonna be me. Everyone is kind of like in the main one, and I think it was Joey and Candace in the other. And then Cameron popped in, and I was like, so he's like, it's you, dude. And I'm like, I know. Um, and I asked him, was like, you've been in my position before in Big Brother. Like, do you have any advice? He was like, oh, say that you're a vote, stuff like that. And I'm like, and he was like, you don't worry, you are good at these challenges and stuff. And like me still trying to keep up the whole facade of like, I'm not really good at this stuff. And I don't know why people are going after me. I will want to backtrack. I did play up this meek thing to Joey to try
Uh-huh.
and put a bigger target on Portia's back because I was being like a little frantic and whatnot, and being like, Portia was saying like she could talk to the director or to the producers and stuff and everything, and like hurt our chances of actually getting on the show, like pretending that it was actually messing with me.
No.
So she seems more like a bully and everything, and you doing that emotional manipulation against us. Uh because like that's something where paved in the paved in a certain light, that's kind of a low blow to do. It's still something where she still kind of did something. She like insinuated like, oh, like I wouldn't say like, oh, you do this, you're in this alliance with me, I can talk to these producers for you. But I was like, what if I kind of reverse it? Because like you're also saying if I don't work with you, you're might hurt my chances of not being on the show. Um, so like thing is, pretty much I was trying to pull Kaiser Soze. I was trying to be the meek nerd, but because I was like nervous and like making it appear I'm not playing well or that I'm panicked,
Uh-huh.
that I'm making these plans or I'm giving these people the opportunity to save me or bring me to the end being a goat. But actually, haha, I want to be like, actually, this was this is actual resume. I fooled you all. Haha. Not in like a villain way, but more so like I had to lower my threat equity the entire freaking game. and do what I do for a living, or not for a living, but what I get paid at Tarmandu is to be like the pathetic nerd and use that skill to my advantage to get further in the game. And then at that one moment where it's like, I'm trying to rally people to vote off, one of the favorites, and I put down Joey because I knew Joey was a safe vote.
Mhm.
And I might have been able to get people to vote out Portia if I was like, hey, let's get Portia. But I thought she had something. But I should have went for broke in that situation. The other thing too, I did not want to burn a bridge with Cameron or Izzy because Izzy really wanted to work with me, or like really wanted to work with the fans. And then Cameron, like I said, I didn't want to, I trusted him, or I thought I trust him. He did vote for me at the Earn the Merge, but like,
Mhm.
he was someone where I was like, hey, I do trust this dude. I want to work with him. And so, like, I didn't want to flat out be like, hey, fans, let's just get rid of the favorites because that's going to be baller. And I can't also say that too because, like, I felt like I couldn't play the game truly as myself,
Uh-huh.
which was kind of sad. Um, it
Yeah.
got me far and I still had a ton of fun. But, like, you know, one of the things was I used to be that meek loser. And so, like, me having to do that did not feel good. And then Drew actually thought that's who I was. He was like, oh, Ryan always said it was him until we got sick of it and we actually got rid of him. And, that kind of stung a little bit because I'm like, that's the perception they have of me. Um, and then, like, when Joey was like, hey, I have a lot of respect for Joey because, like, he and I
Uh-huh.
even talked the next day because, like, we were both on the jury and I wanted to be like, hey, this, kind of explain why I went after him and that I had huge respect. But that thing, it was like, it's like we heard the speech before, if you have to have fun with it. If you get out of the trench, catch a bullet, you catch a bullet. If not, keep moving fucking forward. Um, grab that shield, grab that sword. And
Uh-huh.
earlier in that night, we saw that Portia change shirts again, and we saw that Cameron put his hair up. And then, that was kind of like, all right, you want me to grab the shield? And then I was like, you know what? I have a Captain America thing. Let me do this. Let me go out in a blaze of glory. Let me put on the thing, make a little dramatic monologue. Michael said, oh, is this a breakdown? Maybe a little bit. But I was like, you know what? If I'm going down, I'm going to go down swinging and I'm going to be iconic doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was definitely iconic. It was a great moment. I'm glad that you at least got you were definitely the biggest character of the Vanquish in my opinion. You
Yeah.
definitely brought a lot of personality, a lot of entertainment value to it. So
And
you did hit that mark. I know you were saying, you wanted to raise you had two things you wanted to do, raise money and be entertaining. You definitely did both. So
yeah.
um, speaking of transformations, I also have to talk a little bit about how was it transforming into Neo Wayne.
So, all right. I forget who said it during that night. And I thought it was actually Joey that said it. Or
I thought it was
it,
Michael, right?
it was actually Michael when I backtracked. But, like, there was
Mhm.
just so much going on. And at that point, I hadn't watched that part yet because we just got back onto Vanquish. And obviously, and I had work the next day and stuff. And then also, it's just like a lot of content to go through. Also, I'll admit I was a little nervous to watch my elimination just because just like seeing how I might have come across because
Uh-huh.
night two was a bit of a scarier night. And then also that's when I was voted out. So, like, I was nervous watching that. But so Neo Wayne, uh, the dodging bullet, and then it did sound cool. I was like, Neo Wayne. I went to the two Pokemon tournaments this weekend dressed as Neo because I'm like, Neo Wayne has a nice ring to it. Uh, he said it was because I was dodging all these eliminations. It was like I felt like the chosen one. they chose me 26 times to go home,
Yeah, they did.
which beats Christian Hibicki's record. And
Mhm.
according to Kristen, doesn't beat a Survivor Vanquish record. However, when you have numbers that high, you know, it's quite the freaking accomplishment. I was a little
Yeah.
proud of it afterwards. I was like, hell yeah, I got 26 votes against me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a good accomplishment. It's something that definitely stands you apart from everyone else in the season. Um
Yeah.
uh uh so yeah, my last big question here for chronologically is I just want to know who did you vote for to win the game and why?
I voted for Heather.
Mhm.
One, she took down Portia. She basically played the game I wanted to.
Uh-huh.
She took down Portia. She was able to get the fans together. She was able to win challenge. Uh, Inadvertently, we were kind of playing similar games. I feel like if we were on the same tribe, because she was also terrible at challenges, and she'll admit, if you look back, you'll see she was also struggling with a lot of these challenges. She even mentioned it in her final thing. I'm not picking or anything. Clearly, I chose her as my winner pick. I have respect for the woman.
Mhm.
Um, but I voted for Heather also because of the whole Candace finding out my stuff. I'm like, you know, I was going to keep an open mind. I even told the jury, even for Izzy, let's keep an open mind. But I kind of knew that I really wanted to vote for Heather.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did. No regrets doing it. I was like, she felt like the right choice to choose. If not for anything, because she took out Portia, and I have
Uh-huh.
mad props for that. Also, and there was a lot of truth in what I said about when I was addressing the jury. I will say with Candace, I said you told me to not jump to a conclusion. You taught me not to jump to conclusions. Portia said, "Oh, she didn't tell anyone. She did." So, or
Yeah.
maybe she didn't tell Portia straight out.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then, but like the two people that I think taught me the most was Joey and Heather. And Heather, after my elimination, because Portia was like, "Why did you go at? Why did you talk to Ryan and stuff like that?" It was like, I was like, I wasn't actually gonna vote with him. I just saw what he was gonna do, but he was so vague with what he said, and it was like vague. And then I kind of like self-reflect. I'm like, sometimes I do kind of talk around stuff instead of going for the thing because going for the thing seems reckless.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I chose Heather because one, there was that lesson, and two, she took down Portia, and she was brave enough to speak up right there and there and get the votes there. And she made it to the end. I just felt like Heather was the right choice.
Nice, nice. Okay, so that does it with the chronological things. I got just a couple more general questions, and then that would do it here for this interview. So first off, just overall, how was your experience on Survivor Vanquish? Would you recommend anyone to do it, or do you need to be a certain kind of person to want to, go against other people in this cutthroat fashion in a very fast paced game?
I recommend doing it at least once just to see what it's like. If you get voted off early, I recommend doing it again because
Uh,
sometimes you never know.
yeah.
Um, my experience, it was a lot of fun. It was stressful for me. As you guys know, I'm an actor and I take big pride in that. And I refuse to, when I do the auditions and whatnot, to say that I do something else because one, I've worked hard in my career, and two, actors get so much crap on them, even though they provide entertainment. And without us, yeah, I mean, even with the whole AI, like there's a lot of things where actors get put down or like cast aside for so many things that it's important to like stick to it. So that's
Mhm.
why I'm never going to be on Big Brother and I'm never going to be on Survivor unless I make it super, super huge. And then I'm like, all right, yeah, that. Uh, because of that thing. So me doing Survivor Vanquish realistically was my Survivor experience. And,
Hey,
you know,
you never know.
I
If
know I
if
never know, but if we're talking practically speaking, and with Ryan Luck in the equation, that was my Survivor experience. And I think I was trying to tell that to the people like this is kind of our Survivor experience right now. Because we might not be able to get on the. There's only 38, there's like 36 open spots for Survivor each year in the
yeah,
United States. For Big Brother, 16, even less for that. And then, you know, like there's only so many opportunities to do the big league ones. And granted, there's a lot of orgs and there's a lot of live action stuff. But how often do you get to do a fans versus favorites one?
yeah, exactly.
So that was great. I'm still in a group chat with everyone. I'm still like, I know some of them are going to watch this. You know, like I still wonder a little bit of like what their perception of me is because, you know, because I wasn't truly me the entire game. I feel like I was my most true self and I probably should have been strategizing more or focusing on people that were going to stay. But when Janet and Cliff were going home, well, one, I really wanted to talk to Janet, and Cliff I talked to for a while because like I knew they were going and I didn't want it was a little sad to see them go because I would have loved to get to know them more. And like we can because of social media and whatnot, but you know, just be prepared that the eliminations, even if you're not going home, it can still sting a little bit if it's pre-merge because you're being like, oh well, they're not playing the game anymore. So just bear that in mind.
Hmm. Nice, nice. Okay. Well, I have one last question here, and it's a pretty big one. I don't know how if you've ever if you've been thinking about this or how much you've been thinking about it,
I'm
but
pretty sure I know what it is. Yeah.
do you think that there was a path for you to potentially win this season? And if you did, and if so, what do you think needed to happen? Is there a roadmap that you think you went off that could have potentially got you there?
From what point?
Any point. It can be whatever point. If you think that there was a time that you think that it kind of you lost your course, or if
I think
something.
it was definitely at 12 because I should have said Portia. I really feel my chances of winning that game were low throughout. I wasn't going to win it.
Mhm,
When people were saying closer to the end and then their final thing, oh, they have these giant alliances with three, four people. Maybe because I was too scared to make alliances, or I wouldn't say scared. Maybe because I didn't want to seem like a big strategic threat. I was very selective with choosing people to align with.
mhm,
And so, you know, basically Dylan was my number one. And during the during the the merge portion, I was barely in a room with the guy. And then when Johnny went, he was an alliance member I wanted. He was gone. Uh, I just, unless I, for whatever reason, won out every single challenge, I don't really see myself. I don't think I was going to win it
uh-huh.
at that point.
Do
You know,
do you think
it's
if you weren't labeled a frat boy right away, do you think that could have also do you think you would have played a more under the radar game and not been the biggest threat of the fans, or do you think it was still lost?
maybe it's too early to like even know because
Mhm.
I'll be honest, my biggest regret is that I wasn't able, or I felt like I wasn't able to play 100% as me
Uh-huh.
because of that threat thing. So like all the interactions, not saying that I wasn't genuinely like connecting. Like there was a moment where it was like Drew and I, because we knew Janet was going home. We're in a room. He is someone because like he saw on the Survivor Vanquish Instagram. I guess they had it up for a little bit and then took it down of like the little favorite or like the fan kind of like, oh, here's the fan, meet the fans. And he saw it on the Instagram page. Um, and then so he knew when I told him I was a photographer, not saying that I was lying because I do have a photography job, but that's not my claim to fame, or that's not what
Yeah.
I truly identify as.
Uh-huh.
But like he and I had a great conversation. I felt like I was bonding with the dude. We didn't flat out make an alliance, but I was like having a good time talking to him. And there were times where, we were able to talk to each other and like enjoy ourselves a little bit. Um, and so those were like moments I was able to be me. And like when I'm joking around and stuff, that is me. You guys who watch the channel knows I like to make jokes and sometimes be a little dramatic. I mean, when Danny Boatwright was about to win a brand steal, I threatened to jump out a window. Link to the short somewhere. Uh, but I feel like also when I did it, when I played it, we're talking about my playstyle because my playstyle was flashy. Sometimes
Mhm.
I do feel like I treated it more like a show. I sometimes I'll admit I felt like I treated the game, or at least when I was on stream, I treat it more as a show than a game.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think that's fair. I think I do the same thing, honestly.
yeah,
Because yeah, like a lot of the things you were doing is stuff that like I would be wanting to do in like confessionals because that would just be to the audience and that wouldn't necessarily be in front of the people you're playing the game with. But because you don't have confessionals here, you kind of want to do all those fun things,
yeah,
entertainment stuff. But you have to do it in front of everyone, basically. So I definitely understand, coming as another entertainer.
yeah.
I definitely understand that.
Of course, because you're a funny guy too. You're also an actor. You do so many comedy things. Like it's like naturally that stuff is going to come out. But yeah, it's tough to say, and I'm not there. The question I thought you were going to ask was, would I ever do it again?
Uh-huh.
It's tough because I feel like I wouldn't do well if it was for charity that I could raise money for it, just like this time. Yeah, or if it was for like a milestone one or something like that, then yeah. But it's tough to say because like I don't think I do better than 11
Mhm.
because now people know it would be so cool to play the game as me.
Uh-huh.
And like there are some people where I won't say who, but like he was like, "Oh, we do play again. I got your back and whatnot." Um, or like there's like even other Vanquish people where I think sometimes we suspect we might be in some stuff. So it's like, "Hey, we're gonna be tight." But
Uh-huh.
like it's one of those things where I really don't see myself making it far just based on how the first one went. I feel like
What if it was Survivor Vanquish duos, you and me?
then I would totally do it.
Okay.
Honestly, if you were on Survivor Vanquish, I do mean that. I'm not just saying for your friend. I think you would slay.
I don't know. I definitely think I would not do well. I think it just seems like why would you ever let me get through the game?
One, I mean, like one, you're not a frat boy. You don't
Yeah.
look like a frat boy.
I got a basketball right there, maybe somehow that links me to frat boys.
You have to just hide your anytime you or just move your webcam.
Yeah. Yeah, just move it here. Or I can just block it with my head. Here, I'll just
Exactly.
do that. I'll be right here the entire time.
Or wear a nerdier shirt
Yeah. Hey, I
that
mean,
doesn't look.
you tried that. You tried to get go Pokemon and it didn't
And
work.
then Naruto this next day because it was like, all right, I have to really slam it over their head, without seeming like I'm slamming it over their head.
Uh-huh.
Um, but yeah, uh, if there was like a duos or something, or even rivals.
Uh-huh.
Now, I would love. it's not a question of like, like I think that'd be the question. And I'm pretty sure Porsche would ask the same thing if it was rivals, because I feel like Porsche and I have a big rivalry. And like
Mhm.
if you guys could see the
Yeah.
breakout rooms, um if there was something, it's not a thing of like, all right, well, do we trust each other or do we try and take each other out?
Uh-huh.
It's like one of those things where, and I'm not going to answer it straight up on here because I don't want to publicly say which I would do. I'm pretty sure this would be a discussion between Portia and I if that opportunity were to ever come. But like, it's one of those things, and I feel like, well, it boils down to trust.
Mhm.
I don't know. Can we put her just? There was a time where I was thinking between day one and day two, huh? What if I try and flip? No one
Uh-huh.
would ever suspect that I was working with Portia and the favorites.
Uh-huh.
However, I was like, no, that's a bad idea. Also, how could you trust Portia?
Yeah.
I in that moment, now that we've gotten to know each other a little bit more, she's seeing a bit more of the real me. Not in the sense of like through my stories. It's not like we're
Uh-huh.
texting each other every day.
Yeah.
But like through my stories and whatnot, and then we kind of got to, you know, we trauma about like she was very supportive when we were on the same side, and she was like, "Yeah, you were a big threat. That's why we had to take you out." Like,
Uh-huh.
and like I don't even blame them for taking me out because, yeah, I was a big social threat. Um, I knew how to, like in the sense of like I know how to talk to people. And like I said, I got rid of Alex and I got rid of Kasi. Granted, Heather also was campaigning to get rid of Kasi as well. But like I also had my ass on the line, so I was fighting a little bit harder.
Uh-huh.
Uh but yeah. Um but then again, Heather also was, one of the people that didn't make it. I don't want to like downplay her situation. I don't want to come across as that, but it was like I'm the one that's name has always come up. So like, and I just played Isle. So like, I knew that the stuff was on me, and there was even there was even a portion where I started playing bad. I was like, "Hey guys, I know I played this and that," and I was kind of like seeming meek and like almost like I was about to like cry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget where I'm going with that,
Yeah,
but
it's all good. Yeah, I was definitely I think if anyone somehow has now listened to all this and you still haven't seen Survivor Vanquish, definitely go watch it. It is a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment. It's great to see Ryan showcasing some of his Survivor gameplay yeah, in actual fashion instead of just talking about it. So yeah, definitely give it a check out. This has been a great interview. I think I learned a lot more about sort of Survivor Vanquish and your game from
yeah.
hearing your side of this. So yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you. This was an exciting one to do because I've been talking about this all week. Uh, anyone that like on set, I've probably mentioned it like 10 different times to 10 different people. And sometimes those people were around for that. Or like when I went to the Pokemon tournament, I mentioned a few times why I was dressed up as an EO and stuff. It was definitely
uh
something where I learned a lot about myself. There's still some like self-reflection I'm still doing from it, but you know, I do feel like you do learn something about yourself.
mhm.
And I know it's different because because of like how far I made it. And funny enough, do you know what challenge number I got eliminated on?
Oh, what number? You got it
My
on 8.
unlucky number.
Wow,
The
that's
eighth
crazy.
challenge that I participated in is the one I went home.
Yeah. Wow. You and that number just do not work well.
No. Well, Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. Uh, okay. Well,
Actually, it helped me because it helped me in one circumstance recently, but I'm not gonna get into it.
okay.
You've been trying to wrap this up.
Yeah, yeah.
And
We're coming here at the end. Thank you all for watching. And yeah, we'll see you all in the next Brant Steel.
all right, see you guys there. Peace.